I'm not going to take up any of our speakers' time. Many of you all know him, some of you don't, but you'll know him in about an hour or two when he gets done. I guess the most refreshing thing about John is that I'm almost 60, and how refreshing it is to be called kid. God, I love that, you know. I've been called that in a long, long time. In any event, we've got a friend up here from Brownwood, Texas. I've heard him speak before, and I'm very, very fond of him. I have his tapes, like I have some others, and of those I'm very fond, and I listen to him sometimes, and I'm just so glad that he was able to get here and present his sharing, if you will, sharing with us tonight. John C. from Brownwood, you come up, please, sir. There's your water, sir. And this is the microphone, John.
Thank you very much, Dave. My name is John Carlton, and I'm an alcoholic. And by following the teachings and the philosophy of the program which saved my life, I have been continuously, without a drink of alcohol or any pocket rockets, any mood-changing women, for quite a number of 24 hours. You'll probably know when I took my last drink, but back where I just came from, they always give their sobriety date because they say if you don't, you might not have one. And I don't know, so I haven't heard it being given up here other than during their talking, and I'm going to do as the Romans do. But you'll know before I get through, so don't get too interested in that. There are a couple of observations or two that I would like to make before I attempt to say anything about the only one now of the illnesses that the patient is blamed when the treatment fails. But I would like to make a couple of observations so we'll understand one another. The first is that whatever that I may say here tonight is simply my opinion. I don't speak for Alcoholics Anonymous as a whole. No one is qualified to do that, and I've heard a lot of these birds get up behind podiums and you'd think they'd written a book. But whatever that I say is just my opinion. And it is your prerogative, and I certainly am not so naive to expect all of you to agree with what I say. And it is my prerogative to express my feelings as long as I remain within the perimeter of the decency of this program. And I'm not given to profanity from behind this podium or any other, or any risque jokes. And at my age, I certainly am not going to talk about sex. But what I remembered of it, it's all right, and I'll still vote for it. The presence of you men and women here tonight, and especially fellows coming from the distances that I have had the opportunity to hear about. And I want to say this, I'm particularly pleased today to meet the son of an attorney that I knew many years ago, John, and I'm very pleased to meet Bill Bill H. I don't know where I'd find Bill H. at that little town up there in Ontario, but I found out that his last name was Higgins. Don't tell anybody, but I was glad to talk with Bill, as I am with Gordon, who was sitting up there, because 2 states claim me. One, Maine, claims I'm from Texas, and Texas claims I'm from Maine. Even though I have been out there for some 37 years now, will be the 28th of October, I can't get on yet to their lingo, you know. This over yonder. And y'all come now. I reckon so. I was there 15 years before I got a big hat and a pair of boots, and they haven't got me on a horse yet, and they're not going to. But the presence of you men and women here tonight is a true indication of your loyalty to your own, and I want to congratulate you on the ILAA. Personally, I think it's a splendid idea. And it's an indication of your loyalty not only to that, but to the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. Now, I never go anywhere unless I pay my personal respects to the Al-Anons. And the best way that I know to do that is in the words of our co-founder, Bill Wilson, when he said to you in New York, at one of your earlier gatherings in conjunction with your Canadian brothers and sisters, this is what Bill said. Al-Anon, in my opinion, is the biggest thing that has happened since AA was started. And the reason for your phenomenal growth is due to your determination to fill that vast vacuum of family relationship. As we all know, that is the most important because it is the most deformed. And I like to add these words of my own. I always say, blessed be the alcoholic who has a good Al-Anon mate to come home to, because some of us were not that fortunate. Anything that is good is subject to criticism. Our churches are criticized. Our profession is criticized. Doctors are criticized. Great leaders are criticized. And Galileo was nearly put to death for his views. They said the Wright brothers never would fly, that the air was reserved for the birds. And many, many people considered Columbus as being crazy. Now, the only thing I know about Columbus is what I studied as a youngster. And I don't know whether he was an alcoholic or not, but by golly, he had all the traits of one. He didn't know where he was going when he left home. He didn't know where he was when he got there. When he got back, he didn't know where the hell he'd been, and a woman paid for the whole trip. But progress is being made in all facets today. We put men on the moon, we're shooting them up, back and forth up there now. We've taken people off the bottom of the ocean. Our technology has been almost unbelievable. Maybe some of us Irishmen can eat meat on Friday now. Possibly our Jewish neighbors will be enjoying some ham and pork before long, who knows? And by golly, there's a possibility that the Baptists will start taking a drink in front of one another. Now, it's usually, they say, you tell what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. Now, I'm going to do that. And it's going to take me just about a minute and a half. What it was like? Because I allowed alcohol to divert me from my normal way of living and obstruct my objective. I dissipated every single thing that was near and dear to me. I dissipated 21 years of a lucrative and productive law career. Just for the grace of God, I stand before you tonight, not a disbarred attorney. I dissipated a magnificent mother and wife and a little boy. And I dissipated my own self-esteem. And the last 6.5 years, and I'm not proud to tell you this, but I've got to level with you. And if I should say, by the way, anything that steps on anyone's toes here, please understand I don't do it maliciously. Not that I give a damn. You'd never find me in this Rubik Cube anyway. And Dave is taking me out of here early tomorrow morning. But, the last 6.5 years of my drinking, I traveled under an assumed name. No one knew who I was or where I was from. It was rumored that I was drowned in Baltimore. I don't know how that started. And I'm going to tell you, I lived a life of living hell. What happened? I came into a deal called Alcoholics Anonymous and got sober October 28, 1951, and have not had a drink since. It'll be 37 years, the 28th day of this month, if the good Lord allows me to live. And what is it like now? Well, tonight I feel fine, and I hope you do. So you're not going to get any Howard Cosell blow-by-blow morbid descriptions of my drinking. We'd be here till next week. We've all suffered enough morbidity, and I don't go into that. I was an individual who complained that roses had thorns, and not that thorns had roses, No. But the damnable part of this illness called alcoholism is that I became a thief. And when I was told that, I wanted to hit this fella a shot right in the mouth. But he was my sponsor. He said, "Johnny, you're a thief of the worst kind. And so is every alcoholic." I didn't understand what he meant until he said, "You steal from those you love the most their right to happiness." There was a little word that I was afflicted with. Just 3 letters. Ego. And I dripped with it. Now, I wouldn't care a darn for an individual who don't have some self-confidence. But when you get beyond the reasonable stage of self-confidence, and you become an expert at over-evaluating your self-importance, that's ego. And the best definition of ego is it's the best anesthetic to help lessen the pain of stupidity. And don't forget it. I remember reading the story, or starting to read the story of Jack Alexander in the Saturday Evening Post. In my office in Augusta, Maine. And I read about half of it because he was talking about the fellas that were on the road, the fellas that were hitting the mission houses and the Salvation Army spots, the fellas sleeping on the docks, and the fellas riding freight trains. So he wasn't talking about me. He wasn't talking about the senior member of a lucrative and productive law firm. He wasn't talking about a former personal political representative of one of our vice presidents of the United States the last 2 years that he was in Washington. No, he wasn't talking about one of 26 special assistants. Dave will know what I'm talking about. Some of you other fellows do, too. I was one of 26 special assistants to the United States Attorney General in the Criminal Division of the Department of Justice. And I had my option to resign to save the embarrassment of dismissal, and that was a very graceful and most appreciative way of being fired. And on my tissue to this day, it reads, reason for separation after 5.5 years with a very good efficiency rating. Reason for separation, inability to control intoxicants. Well, you know, I went back to Maine, but before I did, I wired every newspaper up there that I was resigning to return to private practice. Of course, I didn't say what. And I did. And I had some of the best, and when I heard Gordon mention Prince Edward Island, I didn't want to say anything, but I represented some people that used to come down and park 12 miles off the Maine coast and unload a little stuff then. I had some of the best paying criminals you ever saw or heard of. And do you know what I never represented? One. And I don't care whether they're renowned or whether they were not. Never represented a criminal in my life yet that was interested in justice. They were interested in freedom, and that's what they were paying me for, and I'd take your eye out and tell you that you look better without it. I don't know about all of you high ethical individuals, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's very easy. It is very easy to masquerade greed with ambition. And I hope you younger lawyers just coming in will remember that. It's easy to masquerade greed for ambition. Well, I married the daughter of the vice president of the Central Maine Power Company, a gorgeous person. And I've heard fellows say, oh, well, if my wife acted differently, or if she only did this or did that. I can't say that. Not at all. And you know, by golly, when I got sober, and I'd go back to Maine, I got in the oil business out there where I am. And I did all right till about a year and a half ago. Things aren't so good now. And I'd go back to Maine every summer to see Polly and my little boy, Johnny. I went back for 12 years, and then I went back 3 more. And one day we're walking toward the ocean, Polly and I, and for the first time, she put her arm around my back, and I put my arm around hers, too, because the old boy figured he might get home, you know. And she stopped. We're about 50 yards from the beach, and she stopped, and she said, I didn't believe, John, the stories that I heard about you for 12 years. I've seen you on your good behavior before, but it's been 15 years now, and I believe you. And would you promise me something? And here the old ego come back, you know. Quick! Why, of course, dear. What is it? I thought she was going to suggest, would I promise her that I would not drink again? Would I come home? I said, why, of course. What is it? What do you want me to promise you? She said, if anything should ever happen to me, would you promise me that you would look after Johnny? I didn't know that Polly was dying. I don't say this as any tear-jerking thing at all. But don't think if you don't get your family back or don't get one of your wives back that it's going to be the end of the world, because it isn't. She never told me of what intestinal fortitude you women have when that going gets tough. And that's why that I have always placed all of you on a pedestal. When that going gets tough, you've always stood there. I came home, came back to Brownwood, and went on out to Arizona and drilling out there to show you how God acts in many mysterious ways. We were parked between Twin Buttes, and we're drilling some 7 or 8 miles away. We're between the Twin Buttes because of the weather. And this is about 2 or 3 months after when we're there. And my partner said, let's go in this afternoon. I'd never left a lease in over 20 years during the day in my life. He said, let's go in town this afternoon. And I said, sure. When we got to the trailer, we came back to the trailer, I said, let's leave the phone on. That thing might come in out there. Laugh. As true as I stand behind this podium tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not in that trailer 2 minutes, and the phones, that horn started to blow, and I told my partner, I said, I'll get it, and I went out and picked up that phone, and it was my son, Johnny. Now, we could not hardly get Holbrook, 14 miles away. And as clearly as I'm speaking to you now, It was my son Johnny in Belfast, Maine, and he said to the man who hadn't been a father for 15 years, "Dad, will you please come home? Mother passed away this noon." And it was you folks, and folks exactly like you, that made it possible for me to go back to my native city and stand beside my son at the graveside of his mother, once more a useful and a decent person. I was a hell of a guy to get even. I'll get even with him back there. I remember who hurt me. I'll get even with him. My sponsor said, "I'm sick and tired of listening to you make that remark, getting even." Did you ever stop to think, John, if you want to get even with somebody that's been good to you? I never made that remark again. Never. People that rejected me. He said, were you ever rejected before you started drinking badly? And I thought it over. No, I don't think I ever did. He said, the only thing that people rejected in you, it was not you. They were rejecting your behavior. I haven't been rejected since I've been a member of Alcoholics Anonymous that I know. No. This is a simple program. It's not an easy program. And it is as simple as ABC, except begin and continue. Now that don't take any doctor of juridical dichotomy. There's a good one for you. It don't take any lawyer or a doctor or a priest to understand that. ABC, except begin and continue. And if you'll hold on to three things, the truth about yourself, namely you cannot take one drink, and hold on to your AA friends, and hold on to the God of your understanding, you're going to hold on to total abstinence, and I don't care who you are. Because when you change that obsession to drink to an obsession of staying sober, you're going to get up, stand up, and stay up. And you're absolute living proof of it tonight. I heard the young guy this morning, and I heard the other fellows. They were standing out there. There were no chairs enough in here. I was listening through the door, you know. Heard the young fellow this morning. Sure. Heard the other fellows. You're living proof. You're living proof. If you keep this thing simple, not look for things that aren't here. I never heard of an individual getting drunk on a package of Camels or a White Owl cigar. And all of this theory that's going on today, I want to regurgitate. Or puke, in other words. When I hear some of this theory that's being propounded, I'm surprised that more people aren't suffering from paralysis from analysis. And I'm not taking any cheap shots at anybody. That's just my opinion. Length of time that it takes to change the direction of a man or a woman's life is the same length of time that it takes to change an idea. And it took me quite a while to change the idea that I could drink booze. On the other hand, some change the idea immediately. Look, I can't go anymore, and this is it, and they'll do something about it. They tell about the fellow that was, his wife was expecting a baby over in the sister's hospital. And he's walking back and forth in the waiting room, and the Mother Superior came along. And she said, I'll take it easy, young man. All you fathers act the same when your wives are having that first baby. he says, well, sister, this isn't the first baby. This is the 10th one. Oh, she says, glory be to God, isn't it a nice thing raising a nice big Irish Catholic family? He says, well, sister, I'm not a Catholic. I'm a Protestant. Oh, she says, and with that she turned on her heel, started down the ward, got about halfway down there, met this little nun that had just joined the staff that afternoon, called her over, and she said, sister, keep your eye on that tall guy up there. He's a sex maniac. I had the privilege of meeting a couple of years before he passed away a fellow by the name of Bill Dodson. The fellow, you know, the man on the bed that Dr. Bob and Bill went to see. And Sister Ignatia introduced to him. I'd been there now just a matter of weeks, and the fellow wanted me to, who I had written some political commentaries for back in Maine, and his scriptwriter went out from under him, and he tried to find me, and they told him I'd gone to Texas. And he located me, and I went up. And it was about 6 weeks, and I guess when I asked him to send me the cash, you know, he said, oh, no, I'm going to send you a ticket and enough for a pint. Because he didn't believe that. So I finally condescended to take the ticket. And I went up. They sent first, I've got there Thursday, and on Sunday, I've got to go up to see the St. Thomas Hospital. Now, at this point, as far as AA was concerned, I wanted nothing to do with you, and AA could stand for Akron Acrobats, as far as I was concerned. I didn't intend to stay sober, didn't want to stay sober. I just wanted to get this think pad straightened out, and I'd see you guys and gals later. That was my way I felt, my attitude. For 3.5 years, too, I didn't take a drink. Went to meetings, and a hell of a difference being sober and being dry. I got insulted over in Hawaii 3 years ago. A fella said to me, John, how long have you been sober? Young fella. Young. He said, how long have you been sober? And I've been dry, rather. He didn't say sober. He said, how long have you been dry? And I said, well, 33 years. He looked at me and he said, God, you've been dry so long you're a fire hazard. I'm a little careful about talking to those young guys now. But I said to Bill, Bill, Sister Ignatia introduced us to him. I guess I thought these guys were bodyguards to me. There's 3 of them. I didn't know them, but O'Brien sent them with me. I said, Bill, what is this program all about, this AA? I haven't been in long enough to know. Of course, I got to let him know my background, you know, first. And I was one of those dignified drunks, even when I was drinking. You know, the more I drink, you've seen those bums, the more they drink, the farther back they bend, you know. And then I get to the point where about one more and I'd keep right on going, you know. So I said to Bill, what is this all about? And he said, did you ever stop to think what your life is, John? And I said, I guess not. I've been too busy. Pair of shoes, I could step on a chew of gum and tell you what flavor it was, you know. If I'd had a necktie, I'd been wearing it for a belt. Odd trouser coat, but too busy. He said, your life and mine is made up of but 4 things: thoughts, acts, habits, and character, and that's your life. And he said, I don't care anything about your background. I don't care whether you went 2 years at Vanderbilt and graduated from Boston University and 2 years in the Harvard Graduate School. He said, I don't care anything about that. I don't care whether you come from the country club or the county jail. You've asked me what this is about. If you want to continue to think like a drunk, you're going to act like one. Your habits follow your acts, and you'll go on with the habits of a drunk. Your character follows your habits, and that's your life. And go ahead and go on with it. That's up to you. But you've asked me what this is. We can't do it for you, Bill said, but we can show you by living proof, just like every one of you sitting out here tonight that are alcoholics. We can show you by living proof that once more you can start to think like a useful and a decent person. From your thoughts, you will act like a useful and a decent person. From your acts, your habits will follow. And your character will follow your habits. And once more, and Bill put his sum up like that. Bill says, and once more, in this fellowship of the second chance, you can live the life of a useful and a decent person. If you want to. He said, if you don't waste your time in here. My track record, I believe, will bear this statement out. I'll go to hell and back again with a guy or gal that wants to stay sober. But if you don't want to stay sober, you can go to hell alone. It's none of my business, and I'm not going to bother you. You say, oh, he's a hard-nosed old fella, isn't he? No, you could stick a cat's tail right through me. But that's my feeling. I'm not a crusader. When I first start work with these people, and I'd say, by golly, that guy's going to make it. He's going good. And about the next day, see him come down the street, stiff. And I'd get all excited about it. And my old sponge said, don't get excited. Just take it easy. Take it easy. Don't get excited about it. Well, I remember the story. They'd say, he's not being ready. He's not ready. That's all. He just isn't ready. When he gets ready, he'll make it. Don't worry. Well, there was a vacuum cleaner salesman in Dallas, and he had a good racket going. He'd take these new homes out in Highland Park, take the address, and when they're going to open, he'd go out a day or two ahead. So this day he had this good prospect, and out he goes, and the lady came to the door, very sweet, and he started his pitch, and she said, no, I'm not ready. And they got into the hallway and into the living room, and he sees that he's losing the battle, but determined he's not going to lose the war. All she is saying to him is, no, I've told you, I'm not ready. He reaches in his pocket and takes a handful of dry horse manure and threw it right in the middle of that gorgeous carpet. Oh, well, the poor lady like to have a conniption fit, and she looked, and he says, don't you worry, madam, don't you worry. If my machine here don't pick up every bit of that, I'll eat it. With that, she started for the kitchen. He said, just a minute, where are you going? She says, to get the salt and pepper, because this house hasn't been wired for electricity yet. I could accept this intellectually. I could accept this program intellectually. There's no trouble. But I could not accept it emotionally. I could not accept it emotionally, and we very seldom hear it said about, mentioned emotional stability. I'm not running for any office up here in Tennessee. I'll be through here. Whatever that we, how we look at this program, I don't care. Skepticism I don't care how you look at it. That if you will keep it simple, as Dr. Bob and Bill have said, and Bill Dodson, and the guys and gals that's gone on ahead of us, simplicity. Understand, you're not going to get sober by Thursday night, and there's a devil of a difference between being dry and being sober. But that lack of emotional stability, which is the bottom line to anger, fear, resentment, envy, jealousy, self-pity, the whole spectrum of negativism is emotional instability. Sure. Intellectually, of course, we accept this. If you can read and you haven't got a wet brain, you can understand this program. But I'd like to call one thing to your attention, and I'll prove this to you if there's any doubt in it. It tells us, if you want to look in page, and I'm not going to give you any of this look and page bit, but there's one or two pages I remember. If you look on page 68 in the pocket edition of the 12 and 12, you'll see this. We work to perfection but one step, and that is when we make the 100% admission that we are powerless over alcohol. It goes on then and says the other 11 steps are perfect ideals toward which we look and which we use as an indicator as to learn of our progress. I hear people say, oh, yeah, I perfected everyone. Like the woman come to me one time. She said, John, I worked like the very Dickens on those steps. And I've got them all except the 12th. I never can be able to work the 12th step. I said, why not? She says, well, it says, and we practice these principles in all of our affairs. She said, John, I have never had an affair. Yes. But I'm going to say this to you, and I mean every word of it, because I have had the privilege of traveling rather extensively. I'm not on one of these circuit riders, reciprocity boys, as I call them. You invite me to your place, and I'll get you back to mine. If I brought you back to mine, you see about 25 people, and that'd be it. Old Ray and I know one another quite a while, and I was glad to see Ray. But I'm going to tell you that there are dangers that hang over Alcoholics Anonymous, and don't you forget it. And the two most important things that I'd like to call to your attention of the dangers, one placing personalities ahead of AA principles, and the other complacency. I was in Joplin, Missouri recently, and this lady came up to me before the gathering, speaking of personalities. She came up to me before the meeting and she said, John, we're having a lot of trouble lately with personalities ahead of AA principles. And I hope you'll say something about it tonight. Well, I want to be the charm kid, Yes. I wanted to get rid of her, But I'm listening, Just about that time, this gorgeously attired lady and come down, wash sidewalk. Some people were keeping a seat for her over to the right. And as she started to walk by, the function hadn't started. She looked up and smiled and bowed. And I smiled, and bowed. And as she went by, I gave her another look. I remember she had a beautiful set of wheels on her. I remember that. Well, evidently this lady noticed it. Now here, she's approached me about the subject. She says, John, do you know her? I said, no, I don't, but she's a very attractive lady, isn't she? She says, John, her problem isn't alcohol. She says, her problem is sex. Well, I said, I wish to hell that was my problem sometime. I stopped that in a hurry. I faked that someone was calling me. Yeah. And that is placing personalities ahead of AA principles. That's one danger, and it's increasing every day. And the other is this complacency. And I'm not talking about you newer guys for 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years. And I'm not talking about a single one of you that is here. I don't care how long you've been dry or sober. But I'm talking about these so-called graduates, these so-called old-timers, 15, 20, 25, or 30 years. And you say to one of them, listen, we got some new ones down at the group. We haven't seen you for 2 or 3 years. Why don't you come down? Give us a hand. I've had this happen to me. And this fella said, well, John, you know, my business is such now, and I remember the bum when he couldn't buy a roll of colored toilet paper. My business is such now, I've got everything straightened out, and business is going all right. And Helen gave me a recliner for my birthday, and you know, John, sometimes I mow the lawn, and when I get through, I like to watch that, what the hell is that, Gunsmoke? Yeah, Gunsmoke. I was going to say smoke pipe. I like to watch that. And he said, I want you to know this. I'm grateful, though, for everything that you fellas have done for me. Yes, sir. Got his business back, got the family back, got the wrinkles out of his belly. But he'd rather watch Gunsmoke from that recliner than come down to try to help some guy or gal. And as he's walking away, he had the intestinal fortitude to turn around and say, if you need something down there, John, but I want you to know, I'm grateful. Well, 'tis now. Grateful, huh? If it's gratefulness turning his back on the guys and gals that he's left behind him, and the guys and gals that's still out there in the street that don't know what we have in here, and turning his back on those two beloved men, Dr. Bob and Bill Wilson, and that little fella that went to Bill on that November night, Ebby Thatcher, that some of us were talking about him today. If their idea of gratefulness is that, to hell with them. I don't care if they never come back. I won't miss them, I'll tell you that. Now, I could have gone on and talked to you as a former professional athlete or as an attorney. That's not why I'm here. Or I could have gone on and told you about maybe some of my experiences of 14 months in the South Pacific with the Marines in World War II. Not the Spanish-American, but World War II. But that isn't what I've come here for at all. I've just come to point out to you that booze plays no favorites. And if we will keep God at the steering wheel, the God of our understanding, you go to your church and I'll go to mine, we'll all walk along together. That don't make any difference to me. But if we will keep the God of our understanding at the steering wheel and stop using him for a spare tire, as I did. When I needed him, you bet I prayed. When my hands were bandaged and it was 5 minutes before time to go to work and the rap come on the door, Gordon and I were talking about it just before the meeting started. My trainer and my manager would walk away from me because they knew what I was going to do. I was going to pray. I never prayed to win, but I would pray that please keep me from serious bodily harm. I didn't want a cut eye, broken hand, because I'd have another shot some 2 weeks away. This was in the Depression days. This before most of you were born. Some of you youngsters. And you bet I'd pray. And when we were back in the hotel and it was over, do you think that I'd bother to thank him? Of course not. I didn't need him anymore. When that going was tough in the South Pacific and things weren't looking well, you bet I prayed. Oh, God, please help us get out of here. When it was over, do you think I'd thank him? Oh, no. Oh, no. I was a phony when I never took a drink in my life. I never knew what booze was until I was 26 years old. But there was a streak of phoniness there because I would ask God for help, but never had time to thank him until the next time. And you know what? He got a little tired of that, evidently, because I stand here with one ear. I had a cauliflower ear fixed in the Mayo Clinic. I'm stone deaf in this ear. I hear nothing out of it. And I broke that hand 7 times. So if you think that I'm one of these very macho men shaking hands, the reason that I get hold of your hand first is because if you get hold of here, I don't. To this day, and that was many, many years ago. I simply point that out. Because you cannot defy and believe at the same time, and I don't care who you are. You cannot defy and believe at the same time and enjoy any reasonable contentment or reasonable peace of mind. And sometimes when we're feeling important, and sometimes when our ego's in bloom, and sometimes when we take it for granted we're the most important one in this room, and sometimes when you think by your going will leave an unfillable hole, just follow these simple instructions and see how it humbles your soul. Take a pail and fill it with water. Put the hand in it up to the wrist. Pull it out, and the hole that it leaves there is just a measure of how much you'll be missed. Now you can splash all around at the entry and stir up the water galore. Just wait for a minute, and it'll look quite the same as before. Now the moral of this quaint story is that I would rather see a sermon than hear one any day. And I'd rather that you walk with me than merely tell the way. Because the eye is quicker and it's more willing than the ear. And it's your example that makes it mighty clear. Now the best of preachers are the men who live that creed. For seeing good put in action is what everybody needs. Now I can do it if you'll show me how it's done. For I can watch your hands in action, but your tongue too fast might run. Now the lectures that you deliver, undoubtedly wise and true. But the lesson I want to learn is by always watching you. For I might not understand that high advice you give, but there's no misunderstanding the way you act and live. I have, for the last number of years, and I'll give it to you, and I'm going to sit down. You've been just magnificent to be as attentive as you have to me. And I darn sure appreciate it. You have been marvelous. As I mentioned once before, that we were drilling out in Arizona. And this particular time we were upon the reservation, the Navajo reservation. And there was a little fellow that had been graduated from Oklahoma A&M. And we're sitting in the Window Rock Lodge one noon. And he knew that I was trying to get some interest started among the folks there in our fellowship. trying to get one going. And I told him that we believed as we chose that there was no dogma in this. It was highly spiritual. He said, well, John, you might not believe this, but our braves are highly spiritual, some of them. And he said, my grandfather handed us a prayer. My father did not know where he got it. Never heard it, and I certainly don't know. And he gave me, I asked him if I could write it down. It was so apropos to me. And he said, certainly. Now, this was in 1956, ladies and gentlemen, and I asked college professors, I asked teachers and pastors and priests, and no one could tell me where the prayer came from. And in Hawaii, as soon as this function was over, this very beautiful little Indian girl, she lives in Carmel, California, came up and said, John, I know where that prayer came from. I said, you do? She said, yes. I was graduated from the Pine Ridge Indian School in Pine Ridge, South Dakota, and that prayer was given to us, left to us, she said, by the founder, Chief Red Cloud. Now, this was over in Hawaii. As God is my judge, when I came back to Brownwood and picked up my mail from Hawaii, in that package of mail, there was a brown envelope from Pine Ridge, South Dakota. And Father Kurth had heard me ask over a tape that if anybody knew where the prayer emanated from, that I would love to know it. And he'd heard it on a tape somewhere, and there it was, waiting for me. And the prayer goes like so. I don't know about you, but it's so apropos to me. O Great Spirit, I hear your voice in the winds that breathes life into all the world. Hear me, I'm small and I'm weak. I need your strength and your wisdom that you have hidden under every leaf and stone. Let me always walk with beauty, and my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make me wise so I will know what you have told my people. Make my hands always respect the things that you have made, and my ears sharp so I will always hear your voice. O Great Spirit, I seek this strength and this wisdom, not to be greater than my brother, but to fight my greatest enemy, myself. And when my days are ending, as the shadows leave the sunrise, may my spirit stand straight before your eyes without shame. In closing, I want to thank Dave for being such a magnificent host and his darling wife. I want to thank all you folks for being so kind to me here tonight, as attentive as you've been. I know those seats are high and you've been sitting there a long time. But I feel that Dr. Bob and Bill and Evie and the rest of the gang look down upon you folks and look down upon the ILAA tonight. From their Valhalla, I believe that they'd be saying to you guys and gals, good work. Don't get discouraged. Keep going. Keep trying to carry that message to that still suffering alcoholic. Thank you, Dave, and God bless every one of you.